Here comes Nakamura, and the boot right there on the jaw, and Orton is down again. Nakamura is feeling it.
This is what the fight.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications. And once you're done, leave a comment down below, and I just might end up responding.
Alright guys, I just got back from the store, and after all these years, I finally got a pet all for my own right here in this pouch, and oh look, I just tripped over alleged professional wrestling is scripted. Man, I hope that cat's okay. Well, at least he can run around now that he's out of the bag. Pro wrestling holds many a great secrets and ancient wisdoms and sorcery, and only one of those was actually true. This is a very abstract intro. Or is it? Because maybe the WWE does hold some ancient sorcery that's managed to keep so many of those secrets hiding in plain sight. Obviously not all of these will be news to some of you, but honestly the fact that there's even one person who hasn't noticed most of this stuff, genuinely kind of impressive. I'm D-Wicked from Watch WWE, and here's 10 pro wrestling secrets that were just so obvious they flipped the scales upside down and somehow you missed them. Number 10, referee stare downs. Okay, listen, I'll throw the oblivious a bone. Jokes aside, I don't want anyone leaving this video feeling like they've been made a mockery of, so I'll be the big person and start this list off with something I only just noticed within the month. During matches, referees play a massive role, obviously, right? They're the law when it comes to the ring. The most notable role that a ref plays is keeping an eye on a wrestler's shoulders at all times so that they can count the 1, 2, 3 if those shoulders happen to be touching the ground. But the ref isn't actually always looking at their shoulders. It's one of those things that's really hard to notice, especially since refs are usually pretty aware of the cameras that'll be capturing said moment. But when refs count, there's a really good chance that they're actually watching the wrestlers' eyes. If a wrestler is looking back at them, the ref knows it's going to be a 2 count. If they look dead in the eyes or just aren't looking back at all, the ref knows that the match is over.
And again, Nakamura trying to pull the arm free, but look at Cena covers with. Here's the cover and a kick out.
The counter Cena had was to get a...
Number 9, blading. Alright, we went over the one that I've genuinely just learned like around WrestleMania. Let's move on to the one I learned way too young and got scared at the idea of. While WWE themselves aren't always the most keen on pumping out crimson these days, pro wrestling as a whole just wouldn't be the picture we've got today if some of that paint wasn't red. Blood's been a key factor in amping the emotion in countless matchups, and wrestlers know very well how to extract their own fluids. While bleeding hard way, i.e. just getting hit so hard you actually start bleeding, is a viable option, the seemingly much preferred method over the years has been blading, i.e. sneaking a small blade into the ring and managing a good scrape while you're selling.
And there's Orton! Striking like that Cobra.
Number 8, gimmicked weapons. It's not all of them, but a good chunk of the foreign objects used inside of a ring are fake. There's notable exceptions. The steel chairs are actually just steel chairs, and while tables aren't propped per se, just think about it for a second. Would you rather fall straight to the floor or have something to pad your landing? But not all items follow this trend. For example, ladders. Takes a keen eye to spot it, but if you ever look closely enough and see one split in half, you can occasionally see splinters coming out of the ends where the ladder cracked. That's because WWE ladders are actually made out of soft wood and painted to look like the real steel dealy Dan what the. Another good example, sledgehammers, because how did those even get conceived in a wrestling ring, let alone greenlit, let alone become the signature weapon of Triple H, whose initials officially stand for How Hunter How.
Back to the knee, and again. Trademark side. And time.
Number 7, various sounds. There's nothing like the shotgun blast of a popping noise that comes out of the end of the vicious super kick, but once again, the eagle-eyed fans have already figured this one out. Whenever someone goes to hit a super kick, instead of focusing on the kick itself, watch the wrestler delivering the move's arm, specifically the same-sided arm as the leg that they're kicking with, and you will quickly realize where that slapping sound is coming from. Rinse and repeat this general format for literally any move that creates a noise. Stomping is the answer to a lot of them, like punching, but the super kick is easily the most interesting one. That slap, nothing's beating the slap.
Ruin it. No, Dolph Ziggler with us. Oh no! We're wide setting my ball.
Number 6, Plants. Sorry, Mitch, the potted, today is not your day to shine. Instead, I am talking pro wrestling's far more used trope. She's a stunt granny. Plants, or people hired by the company to be planted in the audience to fulfill certain roles, are nothing new to pro wrestling, and I think it's pretty fair to say that most people know that they exist, but I don't think people realize just how much they're enlisted. Like, yeah, if you see a wrestler slap the out of some random fan, unless that wrestler's name is CM Punk, then it's probably a plant. But just about any other interaction you're seeing on screen between wrestler and fan is pre-planned out. And even further, certain audience members being placed ringside or even custom signs being handed out to audience members to ensure that the cameras are picking up the crowd reactions that they want. Number 5, edited crowds. Thankfully, this one is pretty much a WWE exclusive, and pretty exclusively to the past. It doesn't really happen that much these days due to the fact that both shows are live. However, that sneaky beaver Kevin Dunn's always ready to strike. SmackDown, especially pre-2016, back when it was just Tuesday Night Raw, took advantage of their tape delay and would edit their shows, sometimes pretty heavily, to change bits and pieces that they didn't like. Sometimes they would cut chunks out of a match, sometimes they'd add stuff in, sometimes they'd act certain segments, but far and away the most egregious and most obvious editing they did was tampering with the crowd noises, specifically trying to tone down the booing. And I hate to remind everyone of just how much they hated Roman Reigns, but there was a very long era where it was done specifically just for Roman Reigns. Number 4, aiming. The word fake is carelessly thrown around a lot with pro wrestling discussion, but at the end of the day, I think most logical people can come to the conclusion that, yeah, wrestling hurts. Watching certain moves though, pretty much anything strong style especially, you just gotta wonder how the hell these guys aren't knocked out in 2 strikes. I mean, if Shinsuke Nakamura was actually throwing those knees your way, you're not kicking out at 22, let alone by 3. However, these are trained professionals. Just like how they can take a legit steel chair and swing them around without causing real harm, they can do the same with their own moves by carefully aiming around body parts. Plus, wrestlers are also pretty damn good at defending themselves with their own body parts in creative, unique ways. Like, yeah, this all sounds obvious. Duh, they're avoiding the vital stuff, but I don't think people actually realize to the extent, like, wrestlers almost never actually even get touched on the head if there's even like a lick of force behind said strike.
Here comes Nakamura, and the boot right there on the jaw, and Orton is down again. Nakamura is feeling it.
This is what the fight.
Number 3, referees rules. There's an entire section of Botchamania dedicated to talking too much, and it's because the talking happens too much. Wrestling may be predetermined, but 9 times out of 10 that means the finish and a few high spots of the match. Everything else is just wrestlers calling it on the fly. Because of that though, they gotta communicate. That's where the ref comes in. Because that's right, whenever you see Charlie Robinson backing some heel away from getting DQ'd by a 5 count or any other scenario where a referee is talking, it looks like they're giving rules that, oh, I thought that was a 3 count. What? Yeah, that's the explanation for why every heel is like, what? I didn't win? Yeah, they're actually relaying the next move, spot, or sequence from the other wrestler in the match who he's likely managed to make it seem like he was explaining a rule to as well. It's a very simple, yet very surprisingly genius setup when you think about it.
Just when you think you have Orton, both these guys are resilient.
Number 2, playing to the hard cam. This one is occasionally obvious, just like other entries on the list, but again, to the extent that it happens, definitely undersold. If you've watched enough matches, surely you've come across this spot before. A heel wrestler beats up a babyface, maybe he cheated to do it, before turning to the hard camera, the stable one that constantly gets cut back to during matches, the one that's really far away, and doing some douchey pose. And if you've seen this, you have seen the phrase playing to the hard cam in action before. However, pretty much Everything in WWE matches are playing to the hard cam because Vince is Vince and wants to paint his show more sports entertainment than pro wrestling. He keeps the focus exclusively on the ring and, especially for TV tapings, does not put cameramen in any place where they would be seen in the shot for the hard cam. So that basically means all cameramen are on the side of the hard cam. It's not 100% true for pay-per-views. They are stationed on all four corners, and the cameramen can walk to the sides and, move around to get certain shots, but generally they are exclusively on the hard cam side. There's a good reason why 90+% of every pinfall ever has happened in the same 3 general directions, and it's because the entirety of WWE's match structure is based around this camera's placement. And number 1, wrestler tells. A tell isn't like a giveaway or indicator of something. While most of these are just theories that don't really 100% add up, they're pretty damn fascinating, and let's be honest, pro wrestling just doesn't have that many truly secrets. So let's dive into this one and see if it holds any merit. There's 4 main tells that I have personally heard of, and 3 of them revolve around if a wrestler is losing or not. The story goes that if Demon Kane doesn't light his pyro before a match, if Ric Flair wears red trunks, or if Sasha Banks looks noticeably less like a boss than usual during her entrance, they will lose that match. And I'll just be real with you, I know one of them is true, and it's Sasha. She just does not have boss energy when she's losing a match. The last one is also true, and probably something you've never really thought of before, but once you hear it, it's just so stupidly obvious that you might kick yourself. You could pretty much always tell which matches the Bella Twins were going to pull Twin Magic in because they would dress the exact same. Holy shit, I feel dumb.
Look at Twin Magic.
And those are 10 WWE secrets that were hiding right there in plain sight. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments down below. After liking the video, subscribe to the channel, and notifications, ring that bell.